Hello and welcome to today's DocketManager product demonstration. DocketManager is a fully integrated cloud-based print management system. It utilizes tools from web to print, customer management, quoting, ordering, invoicing, production management, inventory for both customer goods and paper stocks and substrates, as well as accounts receivable and reporting. DocketManager is cloud-based, so it's accessible anywhere you have access to the internet, and is a responsive website, so it can be opened up effectively on cell phones and tablets. Today we're going to go over just a 10,000-foot overview of DocketManager and its tools. Keep in mind that if you have additional questions or want to take a closer look at what our system can do, you can always give us a call or visit our website at DocketManager.ca. So what we're looking at right now is a product dashboard. And this dashboard is available to anybody who you give access to. So you can set different security levels of the system based on login access. On this dashboard, you can just get a general overview of the health of the shop. So we have graphs and charts that will show things like the dollar volumes of orders that you received today, your accounts receivable outlook, production, just a graph as far as where workloads are. Graphs for orders and quoting, so you can see what you've got posted and unposted versus active and converted quotes. And then down at the bottom here we have a sales graph, which allows you to set sales goals for each month throughout the year, and then see in real time where you're meeting or exceeding those potential goals. So it's a great sales tool that allows you to work with your sales staff on meeting those projected goals. Down the right-hand side are a lot of communication tools. So there is a built-in task manager, and on this dashboard you can see all of the most recent tasks that are assigned to you. And tasks can be anything from a follow-up on a quote to when an estimate is due, or even a production task geared to a specific job. They can be assigned to individuals throughout the shop, and due dates can be set with those tasks. You can see the most recent communications that have gone out from DocketManager, and a communication can be an email that is sent out for an approval on a proof, or maybe an outsourced order going out to one of your vendors, or an invoice or a quote. Below that is a deposit section, so you can see deposits that are put together and then eventually taken to your bank. So as you receive those payments in and outstanding orders, you can gather them together into a deposit and then pay off those outstanding invoices from that deposit. This helps you just easily reconcile your accounts receivable when you finally get that together. And then all the way at the bottom here we have our PO section. The PO section is just a list of the most recent purchase orders that go out to your paper or substrate vendor. So you can send in purchase orders directly from DocketManager to your paper or substrate vendor. Over on the left-hand side, you have your navigation for DocketManager, and we're going to take a look at the CRM, which is the next tool in the navigation. The CRM allows you to communicate with not only your clients, but your prospects as well. This can be used as a very effective sales tool for your sales reps, and a communication tool for your customer service reps as well. Throughout DocketManager, there is an extensive search tool which allows you to do multiple level query searches and save those searches into smart lists and call those smart lists up at any time. So if you're a sales rep logging into the system, you can search for just your accounts. Or if you have multiple locations that you work with, you can assign customers to those locations and then filter based on those specific locations. So let's take a look at a customer and the detail that goes into all of the information on the CRM or on the customer. Up at the top, you're going to see those blue toolbars which show financial information, outstanding balances, how long it takes for them to pay, as well as down the left-hand side, customer details from phone, fax, emails, social networks, and then just standard preferences, like if there is an assigned sales rep or CSR, what are their billing and shipping addresses. And by the way, everywhere that you see a billing or shipping address in DocketManager, they are hyperlinks to Google Maps, so you can utilize them to get driving directions if you're dropping off an order or visiting a client. And then things like preferences for how is the job delivered typically, just a preference that they have. How is the invoice delivered? Are there any payment terms, discounts, or tax types? In the middle, you're going to see the notes section, which is part of the CRM, which allows sales reps, CSRs, or anybody who is communicating with the client the ability to add notes to this record. So you can go back and review previous notes. You can make notes sticky, which allow those notes then to be automatically put on new orders as they're placed. So in this case, we want to replace any new orders with the new logo that's been supplied by the customer. So we made that note sticky so it'll show up on all new orders so we don't miss that opportunity or that mandate from the customer to change the new logo. In the middle section here, we have the contacts, so you can have multiple contacts within a client record or a customer record, and those contacts carry all of the information that you would need required for that particular contact. Their phone, their email, their fax, their title, their social networks as well. At the bottom in the middle section here, we have the Task Manager, which again allows you to set tasks for individuals within your shop or yourself with a due date to follow up on that task. That task can again be something like a client follow-up or a quote follow-up or a reminder that an order is coming in. And you can view all of your tasks simply by clicking View All. This will view all the customer's tasks. On the dashboard, it'll view all of your tasks so you can see what items are due, or if they're red, what items are past due. Down the right-hand side, we have the most recent orders or quotes for this particular customer. So if the customer wants to do a reorder or you need to review an order or a quote, you can easily access them from this section. Down at the bottom is just general accounting information, like any outstanding balances that haven't been paid, as well as any recent payments that the client has made. If we go back up to the top to the customers section, let's just take a look at this sales tool. This sales tool coordinates with that graph that is on the dashboard as far as the estimated or projected sales for each month throughout the year. So in this section, you can actually put in your estimated sales. You can view a history of your previous years. So, maybe if you want to put some growth into the new year as far as projected amounts, you want to do a 5% growth, you can look at what you did last year, put that in as a projected amount, and then follow in real time your posted sales for each month throughout the year so you can see what's posted, what's outstanding, and then get a summary of it up at the top of the page for the current month. So you'll see here we have a projected 98,000 for this month. We've posted 18,000 so far, which gives us 79,000 outstanding, which means we have to do $7,000, a little over $7,000 in sales per business day from now to the end of the month to be able to meet that goal. So it's just a nice motivational tool for sales reps or even just you internally to see where you are in the sales process. You can even get breakdowns of the individual queues and see what dollar volumes are in those queues so you can see where your projected sales are coming from. If we go to the orders and quotes section now, this is really the heart of where DocketManager comes from. This is the ability to create and modify quotes and orders as well as put them into production. Learning how to create a quote is the same process as learning to create an order, and you can start from either or. So if the client does require a quote, you can create that quote from here, send it off to the client, then convert it to an order. Or if the client just calls up and wants you to produce the order or the job itself, you can start from an order. Each of those processes does create a price for you as well as all the cost data on that job, so you can produce an invoice immediately. Again, on DocketManager, we do have this search tool down the side, which also allows us to create those smart lists. So if we want to keep an eye on a specific customer and want to see what type of orders they have in regularly, we can create that filter and look at that customer. We can see samples or unposted items. So you can create any type of filter that you need for your production and view that filter at any time. Or again, if maybe the client calls up and says, I want to place a reorder, reorder. You can type in the customer name, maybe the order number or order name that you know in the past, find it, convert it over into a reorder, or maybe even a quote if they need it requoted, and then process the job from there. Creating new orders or quotes is very simple. There are a number of different places that you can do it. So if you're in the customer in a CRM, there's a new button there. There is a new button on this page here, and then you can also access new items from the toolbar up top. In this case, if we wanted to create a new order, I can click New Order. It'll pop up a little window which then allows me to search and select the prospective customer. I can search any string of the customer's name and it'll bring it up. So from there, I'll select the particular client. I'll select a contact from the available list. I'll put a name, if applicable, a purchase order number, and click Save to start the order. I'm going to go ahead and jump into an order that I've already created today just to save some time in this product demonstration. So here's our order on the right hand side here. We can go into that order and do a number of things, but I just want to go over just some real estate going on the screen here. Throughout DocketManager, always notice that customer data is on the left hand side. So we've done usability studies and found that if you keep data in a specific place all the time, it makes that usability much more efficient, much quicker to access. Your eyes are always looking to the same place. In the middle, we have details for when you actually go to invoice the order. It's as simple as putting in an invoice date here. So you'll select the date that you want, save that order, and then go ahead up in the Actions menu here and print or email an invoice and then post it when it's completed. The system will allow you to put postage in or shipping. We do have an integrated shipping module which connects with your carrier, UPS, FedEx, DHL, Canadian Post, US Post, where you can enter shipments in. You can create parcels or boxes as your shipping department is boxing them up. You can then query out to your different delivery vendors. It'll give you all of the different options and prices based on that vendor that you select or that courier that you select, and then it'll go ahead and put that amount in here with a markup. So it'll allow you to put a price in. You can generate those shipping labels from there. You can also send shipping emails or print packing slips as well. Also on the right hand side, we have the ability to receive payments on this order. So if they do a prepayment on the order, we can log that in. If you have a credit card module, you can actually process a credit card from here. There is a note section for the entire order, so you can put notes on, maybe call before delivery, or one of those sticky notes that come over from the customer's record will come into the notes section. And again, you can set tasks. A good example here would be if they order this every year, you can put a 1-year reminder in to reorder this job in a year, and that'll come up in your task much later. Up at the top here, we have the section where we add our items in to produce this particular order or job. There's a number of different ways to add items in, and we have optimized this. So really what we're all about is making the order writing process simpler for you. So the faster and more effective that you can enter order data in and produce a job ticket, the more profitable you're going to be in the long run. If you have our integrated web-to-print solution, know that when the orders are placed online through the web-to-print solution, they'll come in here automatically created and ready to put into production. So you can print out a work order, you can make sure paper's ordered, or again, you can just push it right off into production. To create new items in the list, there are 3 general ways to do it. The first is going to be to insert an item from either your customer's current or past orders. So we have a filter down the side here for orders. You can pull them from quotes, from products or template groups, or customer goods. So DocketManager has a fully integrated customer goods inventory section. So if you are managing shells and you're doing imprints on those shells, you can pull from customer goods and it'll automatically subtract from that inventory. Or maybe you're just doing fulfillment and drop shipping as the client places an order. You can pull from that customer goods, and again, it's going to go ahead and update that inventory when the order is produced. Very simple to search through the various criteria on those particular items. You'll simply select the item that you want, add it in, and then change the specifications as required. So maybe a quantity changes or they're doing additional artwork. It's very easy to change those specifications. You can even search from other customers' databases to be able to pull work in. So if you did a job from another customer, a similar job, a couple weeks ago, you can search their quotes or their orders, pull it in, and again, make the changes accordingly. So we've optimized that ability to enter data in so it can be as quick and productive as possible. So that's the first way to enter an item into an order. The second way is to do it from scratch. So you'll go into our job interface, you'll enter things like graphics data, paper, press, finishing options, outsourcing options. You'll simply enter all those job specifications in and you'll be able to produce that order. So this is good for jobs that you haven't done before or they're one-off type jobs. The third and final way is to enter items from either a template or a group template. A template are individual items like a brochure or a business card or letterhead. Pieces of work that you do on a regular basis where the specifications are fairly similar all the way throughout. So it's going to optimize that time coming in. A group template can be a group of individual templates. So maybe you're doing a saddle stitch book with a separate cover. A group template can bring in that cover as well as those body pages that are run on the different stocks and potentially the different presses into a grouped item like you see down below here. These standard invites came in from a group template. So all of those items came in and I can manage those items from the one group template, changing quantities or updating quantities, or I can go in again and edit the individual items on a group order that came in. From a template, though, we give you extensive searching capabilities so you can segregate your templates by groups. The type of work that you do, brochures, folders, yard signs, vehicle magnets. So all you're going to do is select the potential. You can either type it in. So if I'm doing brochures, I can type in my brochure. I can select from, if applicable, multiple template options. So maybe we've got a template for 8.5 by 11, one for 8.5 by 14, 11 by 17, 11 by 25.5. So you can set all those different template options, filter by that option, and maybe even further template options like 4-color versus black versus PMS. Once you find the one that you're looking for, you're simply going to select it and add it in. And from there, you can change specifications. But keep in mind, this is going to come in with all the general data. So it's going to eliminate a lot of potential mistakes, like if you're doing this on a cover stock. So maybe it's a brochure on cover stock. How often do you forget to put scoring in there? Or maybe vending out to a specific vendor. So this will have all of those basics in, and all you have to do is edit it. So, if it's going on a different substrate or paper stock, it's easily switchable once you get into that particular item that's copied in from the template. So I'm going to actually go into an item so you can see the interface of what an order looks like. This brochure came in from a template, so I have the ability in that template to carry multiple quantities. So I've worked out that template with multiple quantities. So if the client calls up and says I'd like to order 2,500, I can go into editing mode, which, by the way, editing mode can be locked out for individuals within your shop based on that user login access tool that we have. So I simply go into editing mode here, and if I wanted to change a quantity, I can select that quantity and click Select Quantity. Or if I needed to add a new quantity, it's as easy as clicking the new button and then typing in a quantity. So in this case, maybe we want to do 10,000, and we also want to do a quote for, or an order for possibly 15,000. So I'm going to add an additional quantity. So I can do this on a quote or order basis. I can override prices if I have a custom price, or I can set a discount based on dollar amounts or based on percentages. Once I click Save, if the specifications are in there, it's going to work up that pricing for those additional quantities and again allow me to make selections from there. Once I've entered the data in, if this is a quote, I can go out and look at all the quote information and expand that out so I can see what is my cost on each individual item throughout this order, what is my markup in my price. So if I needed to tweak things a little bit, I can go in and say, okay, my stock, my cost is $847, my markup is 65%, so I'm charging $1,400. It gives me a $500 markup. I need to be a little bit tighter on this for this particular client, so I'm going to go ahead and change the price to $1,200, or maybe I want to change the percentage of a markup. I can change that. When I save this, it's going to flag that field as green, so I can see that it is overrided. If potentially down the road I need to do a new quote or a new order, I've got that ability to go in and just zero it out and change it to whatever the default may be. So I can see my profitability on the job itself down at the bottom here. So what is my total cost on the job, my total markup, my total price, and total profit. The balance of this is just going through all the specific tabs within DocketManager. So I've got my graphics. It's notifying me that I made a change and didn't save it. So if you haven't saved a change, the system will notify you. If you click cancel, it'll allow you to save that change. But here I've got my graphics department. Graphics can either be entered as a function of estimated time. So if I knew it was going to take 50 minutes to produce this job, I can do that. And then I can select a graphic rate. So you can have a single rate for your graphics department or multiple rates. So maybe you charge a little bit more for design time or web work. You can have different graphic rates in here. So I can either estimate or calculate my graphics time based on an estimated time, or down below here I can do it based on department items, which are preset or predefined items. So here I have a pre-flight difficult going in here, which a pre-flight difficult maybe we charge $85 on. To add a department item anywhere through DocketManager, you're simply going to select new. Either search by the department item name or by specific groups. So you can categorize each item by group. So in this case, if I was doing my graphics group, I can do a search, find all those items in my graphics group, and then select the applicable item. So if I wanted to change this to a pre-flight standard versus difficult, I can select it, add it in, and delete the other item. You know, maybe you've got standard prices for business card design or letterhead design or pre-flighting. Those can be done as a department item. Paper stock. So again, this came in from a job template, so the paper stock was automatically selected. If I needed to override that, I can go into editing mode, or if I needed to add a stock for the first time, it's going to pull up a paper library that I can import in from my vendor, so they can give me a digital list in a CSV file and I can upload it into the system. So in essence, I can search through my entire paper database to find an applicable stock from an applicable vendor and add that stock, select it, and add it into the job. If I don't need to change it, I can leave it as is. As I hover over that particular paper stock, it's going to give me some additional information like the inventory amount. So maybe this is a house stock that we're keeping on the floor. So it's showing me that I've got 9,500 sheets in inventory and 9,500 available. So if I wanted to, I can change the inventory status here to allocated to this job. What that's going to do then is change the amount of paper that I have available. So I've allocated the amount of paper to this job that is required to produce this job. So if anybody else comes in and wants to utilize this stock as well, they'll see what's actually available to produce and whether they need to reorder the stock or not. If I do not have stock in inventory, the system will flag it as required order, or I can override that as well. And then at the end of the day, I can add it to a purchase order and send that off to the paper vendor. So it'll show in that list of stocks that require reorder. As I scroll down to the bottom here, I could enter my run size in as well as my flat and finish size, and then use my imposition tool to set up whether I want it centered on the sheet. So it's going to make cuts all the way around. Do I have bleeds? And if I say yes, it'll automatically populate in just a standard bleed preference that we set on the back end. And then do I need to match grain? So if I select match grain, it could potentially change how many ups I get on the sheet. So you'll see here, because I have to rotate it, I'm only going to get one up. Whereas if I say no, I don't need to worry about the grain, I'll be able to get 2 up on the sheet. At this point, it'll automatically calculate my ups and my pre-cuts and post-cuts for me. At this point then, I can go to the press and select the press option. You have the ability to set all kinds of different presses and press groups. So in this example here, we have digital presses, large format, offset presses. We can handle web presses as well. You'll select the particular press group that you want to utilize, as well as the press that you want to utilize, whether it's a 4-color offset, 2-color, digital press. You can select that applicable press, and this area is going to change based on the press that you've selected. So if it's a digital press, it'll allow you to enter multiple sets in, front and back side. If it's a wide format press, it'll allow you to enter square footage in or calculate square footage. You could set production modes too on wide format. Because we're on an offset, it's going to figure out potentially plate wear. So if it's a long run, it'll automatically calculate how many plates I need to possibly remake on the job. I can set modifiers for ink coverage for heavy, light, or average coverage, and it'll modify that speed accordingly. In this case, I'm going to print it 2-sided, so it'll automatically calculate how many plates that I need. It'll automatically put in, once I select how many colors, so I'm going to do 4 colors on the front, 4 colors on the back, I can go ahead and select those potential colors. In this example, we're going to do it 4-color CMYK. I had a client asked me once, if I'm trying to match a Pantone with that CMYK process, can I put that Pantone color in here? And I said, yeah, you're going to do it CMYK, and you add that Pantone color from the list here, and it's going to get a graphic representation of what that Pantone color is, not for matching, but knowing that you're going to utilize that color. Or even if you're printing the job as a single or 2-color or 3-color with a Pantone color, you can add those colors to the specs of the job. You also have the ability to add for aqueous, inline aqueous coating. Finally, in the finishing section here, this is where we can add all of our finishing items. So if we're doing pre or post cutting, keep in mind that is all calculated by that imposition tool. So that's filled out for us right here. If we have to do numbering, we can put a prefix, a color, and a number range there. The system will automatically remember if it's a reorder, then it'll automatically start with the next number in sequence. And then if we need to do department items like folding or binding or shrink wrapping, again, we can add those department items by clicking the new button. And like we did back in the graphics section, we can select the potential items or the specific items that we need to add onto the order, and it'll automatically calculate the pricing based on the specs of that item that we entered in. The final tab here is outsourcing. So on the outsourcing tab, we can set up our vendors for this job. Whether we have multiple vendors to produce the job or a single vendor, you can utilize this tab to quote out at multiple vendors. So in this case, the yellow one is the one that's selected, but I did get a quote from Laminating Services, so I'm also storing that in here in case I need to switch the job at any point over to Laminating Services. I have that data in here. So all I would do is enter that vendor in, put the different quantities that they're quoting on. I can put a cost in and have the system automatically generate a markup based on a table that we put according to that vendor. So maybe I've got a vendor who is very, very cost effective, and I know I can mark them up a little bit more than other vendors. I can put a table based on that vendor for marking things up, and it'll automatically put that scale in. Once I've pushed this order off into production, which I can either do through a digital work order, so again, because we're responsive, shops are starting to install tablets or even cell phones where their production personnel will access job data in real time through there, or you can print out a work order. At this point, there's some production tools that can be utilized. So our graphics people, as they're producing the job, they can keep track of their time. So we have timers all throughout. To start a timer, it's as easy as going in and starting that particular timer. When they're done, they can click the timer off and it'll stop that timer. So we can track true costs across the board. And this can be done from the graphics area. It can be done virtually on anything throughout the shop. Press, finishing features, even setting up for outsourcing if we wanted to track that data. From there, when the graphics people are done and they want to send a proof out to the customer, they can upload that proof into the files area here and then simply go ahead and send out a proof email. In this instance, it'll ask us, which file do we want to add for that proof, and it can be a JPEG, a PDF, whatever proof you want to give to that client. It'll generate a canned email where we can have a number of different canned pieces of text. Maybe we have a different one for another customer. But what this will allow us to do is send an email out to the client. The client can click on a link, view that proof online, and approve or reject that proof through an online portal. If they reject it, they have the ability to enter in any required changes. So when I go ahead and send this out now the customer has a proof. It'll show the status or automatically update the status. In this case, it's waiting for approval. So when I go ahead and save this, it'll update that date when I go out of editing mode. So this is production mode now, where my production people see this view, and they'll be able to see that we're awaiting approval status. It was updated 9/14 today, so I sent out a proof today. Once they make changes, those changes get logged into the system down below here, so the graphics person can see, if the client approves that proof online, it'll change the approval status to approved. If the job requires changes, it'll change it to requires changes. The notes will be in the job itself, so the graphics person can go ahead, make the changes, and move on. So again, press operators, finishing people, they can all create timers. If you're doing the outsource section on this job, you can actually even send out an outsourced email purchase order to those potential clients. Those potential vendors. So if we're ready to send the job out, we can send it out with a purchase order. We can even attach a file if they're producing the entire job. So now that we've overviewed the quotes and orders section, which, by the way, I wanted to go back to the order and show you that if this was a quote, it's very simple to convert it over to an order. We'll go into the Actions menu and convert it to an order. Since we are in an order now, we can convert it backwards to a quote. So if this was a history job, something that we had done in the past and the customer wants a requote on it, we can convert it to a quote. Send the quote out, and then once it becomes an order again, convert it over into an order. So there's a lot of ease in converting back and forth between quotes and orders. Once you've written up an order, it can now go into production. So we have a production tool here which allows you to manage where items of jobs are throughout the shop. So when a new order comes in, it can either be pushed immediately on the order off into production, into a specific production queue, or it can go into a to-review queue where now our production manager or CSRs or someone can review the order before they push it off into production. Make sure we have paper stock or there's nothing strange going on in the order. The nice thing is jobs from the internet can come into this, that are placed on the internet, can automatically come into the to review queue. That way they can be reviewed before they're pushed off into production. We have a search tool down the side here which allows you to optimize all of your different production tasks, so we can search by various elements throughout the production schedule, throughout all the jobs that are in-house, and gang things together. So for example, if we were running PMS 186 on the press, we could type in PMS 186 into the ink here, search through all jobs throughout the shop to see if there are any other 186 jobs, find out where they are in production, so maybe we can hold off and gang them all together and save some wash time. We can also utilize this for our shop floor staff. So based on their logins, they can view their production queues, see what jobs they have to produce during a specific period. They can even save, so again, they can search by a specific press or press group if they're press operators, or finishing person by department item, and they can save again as a smart list that particular task. So in this case, if I'm the 2-color offset press operator, I can log into my account, select 2-color offset press, and now see all of the jobs that are scheduled to go on that press in my queue. So you'll see it automatically went to the offset queue, so I can see all of those jobs that are in production in my area scheduled for my press. In each of these areas, so I'm going to go ahead and clear the search. In each of these areas, I'll go to the graphics section. You'll be able to see a due date. So by default, it's going to sort this page by the due date. So in this case, our graphics due date is 9/18 on these particular items. But I do have one here that's 9/11, a little bit further down in the list, and it's past due, so it's red. The reason why it's further down in the list is because I flagged 2 jobs here as priority jobs. So when you flag a job as a priority job, it's going to shift up to the top of the list so that your production staff knows that those need to be worked on first. Because we're in our graphics tab, I can see things that are applicable to the graphics department, like the due date, any estimated time that's been put on the job, actual time, as well as proof status. So when we talked earlier about sending that proof out through the system, I can see the proof status from here. So red means that changes are required. Orange means it's still out for proof, or green means that it has been approved and I can push it off into production now. So I can see those statuses. If you're in production meetings, you can actually export this data out into a CSV file, print it out, and then take notes on that sheet. Once a person is done with that job, they can then complete it and push it off into the next production area. So in this case, if I wanted to move this job into my digital press area, I can select it, go to the digital area, click save, and now it's going to move that job out of the graphics department and into the digital area. So now it's part of the digital queue. When my digital press operators go in, they can see the particular jobs that are ready for them. To show you one of the press options here, when we go into the offset area, and by the way, you can create your own customized queues. These are examples that we have. If you're not doing digital work or offset work, you don't have to have an offset queue. Or if you wanted to break your bindery out a little bit more between, folding and book binding, you can create queues based on each of those areas. So here, while we're in the offset press area, a couple things that you can see. Again, the press that it's going on, and we can filter the page by that specific press. I can see the estimated time that it's going to take to produce the job, the paper that's required for the job, quantities, ink configuration. So I can see this job is black over 185. Again, when it's due off of the press, when the final ship date is, and then if I have stock pulled and ready for this job. So once the press operator is done, and by the way, they can start a timer for the job here. So if I wanted to go ahead and say I'm working on this job, I'll start that timer, and when I'm done, I can click the timer off. When they're done, they'll just push it off into further areas in production. The great thing about the production module too is it completely integrates with the web to print solution. So as we are moving jobs throughout production, it will automatically update the statuses online, so our client at any time can log into their portal and see the status of where their job is at, whether it's ready for pickup or whether it's on press. We have a full inventory section that allows you to keep track of paper inventory, customer goods, as well as supplies, and generate a paper or substrate purchase order. So as I stated before, you can upload a paper library or paper database from your vendor into the system and utilize it for a catalog. You can also keep track of house stocks or stocks that you have on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this column so I can search or sort by availability. and see what stocks I have available. Once I filter down through those stocks, I can see what's on hand, what's available, and when those potential prices were updated. So as I scroll up the list here, I can see that, this Futura gloss, I have 12,000 sheets on hand, 12,000 available, and I can see that the price was updated back in April. When you receive a price update from your paper supplier, you can upload that price update into the system, and it will flag it when that price has been updated. The system uses a first in, first out, so if you have inventory on the floor and you update the price and order additional inventory, the system will keep the initial cost of that paper stock until that initial inventory has been depleted. Then it'll automatically kick up to that new level. We keep track of customer goods, as I stated before in the job sections. You can track all kinds of job goods, from shells to different products to things that are for shipping or drop shipping or fulfillment. One of the nice things about your inventory is you can have a lot of notes and also view specific information as far as monthly uses, as far as inventory depletions and additions, bin locations, minimum levels, whether it's shell stock or not, and then original order information and notes. So you can set low inventory levels and manage that inventory as well, or that low inventory as well. And as I stated before, as you enter items into an order from the customer goods list, it will automatically update that inventory or subtract from that inventory when the order is placed. At the end of the day, or whenever you choose to order your paper or your substrates, you can create a purchase order in the system. The purchase order allows you to create that new purchase order, select who that supplier is, and then go ahead and add stocks to that order. Now I can either add stocks by searching through those stocks in the database. So again, if I'm just generally ordering paper for inventory, I can do that. Select the stock, add it in, and edit the quantity that's required. Or, again, if I flag the job as requiring paper in an order, or it was flagged itself, or if an inventory amount of paper drops below a set inventory amount, I can look at everything that requires a reorder. It'll give me a list of those papers. So here's that Carolina that I flagged earlier. I can select it, add it into the purchase order, and then from there it'll automatically put the correct amount that's needed. I can override that if applicable, and then simply email or print that purchase order out at this point. When my receiving department or shipping department receives that paper stock in, they'll go to the packing slip, open up the received section here, and then just type in the quantity that they received off of the packing slip. Once they do that, it will automatically update that inventory in our inventory system. When the job is finally produced, it'll automatically subtract that item or that number of stock items out of the inventory. You can even go in and put an actual amount, or the press operator can go in and put an actual amount that they used on the order, so that our inventory stays pretty close to what it needs to be. You can also mark items as back ordered, so if we didn't get the correct quantity in, or they didn't send it, we can flag it as back ordered. Once we flag it as back ordered, then we can actually, the order will show up as partially received. So we can go ahead a couple times a week and look at our received partial orders, and then go in and view what items are outstanding or what items are back ordered, so we can call up our paper company and see the status of that job. Let's go over to the accounting section now. So we have a full accounts receivable module. Within here, you can send out statements, you can print invoices, you can receive payments on invoices, you can run a closeout and generate commission reports as well for any of your sales reps and the commissions they receive on the jobs. So here we've got a nice account breakdown as far as what's 30, 45, 60, 90 days, all outstanding. I can filter looking for specific ranges or customers as far as outstanding accounts receivable. I have that deposit section where I can create those deposits and add payments to it. I can automatically just do a payment here, or add a new payment to an order. There is a revenue breakdown here. So as I post orders or actually close them out, they'll go into a revenue breakdown that I can actually view based on a date range, or I'm actually going to go ahead and clear it out so we can see everything here. Where I can get breakdowns in all my different areas so I can see, during that specific period, my cost, my sale, and my profit for that center. So if I wanted to look at my presses, I can drill down into the press area. And then I wanted to see, okay, my digital presses, here's my cost, my sale, and my profitability, pretty good. But I wanted to break it down even further of my digital presses to see the individual presses. What is the volume on there? What is my cost? What is my sale? What is my profit? So you can break down to individual sections as well. Once you've posted all of your payments and deposits, once you've done all your invoicing and posted those invoices, you can run a closeout. A closeout then closes all of those sales out, and you can do it daily, weekly, monthly, doesn't matter. Once you run that closeout, again, it'll generate a closeout report for you. And in that closeout report, we'll have the revenue breakdown. So you can see the revenue breakdown just for that closeout period. And then you can scroll down to a general ledger account breakdown. So every item in DocketManager can be assigned a GL account that matches up with your full accounting system. So at this point, what we could do is see all the different accounts and where everything was assigned to in the current closeout, and then I can export that data into a text file that I simply need to import into my full accounting program. So it'll bring those general ledger entries into the accounting program, so I can do my balance sheets, my profit and loss sheets from my full accounting program. This integrates very well with pretty much any accounting system that can import general ledger account entries. We have extensive reports throughout the system, so you can generate reports based on accounting, analysis, efficiency, marketing, and sales. All of these reports have preferences that you can set on them, or actually selectors for filtering them, and they download into CSV files. That way, what you can do is create report writers and import that data in and create your own specific reports. There's a very intuitive settings section here. Part of the system setup, the assisted system setup with DocketManager, is we'll go in and we will do a portion of this for you, whether it's converting data from a past MIS system or whether it's setting up an MIS for the first time. We have an assisted setup package which assists you getting all of this set up, and then we also train you how to make changes in the different areas. There's a lot of extensive controls that you can have where you can make them simple. So the one that people want to look at the most is the press area. So again, you can set up your presses. I'm going to go ahead and go into a offset press, and you can see all the different settings that are available on an offset press. So as we go through, you can put the number of heads, what your cost is per hour, which includes any of your overhead, any of your labor. You're going to put that in as a cost per hour. You can put setup time in there, and then additional head setup times if applicable. Down below here, you can set up preferences for minimum width, maximum width, length, registration leaders. A lot of these are placeholders for when we develop intelligent estimating. Same thing for minimum and maximum calipers. So it's going to be able to select presses based on paper that you select. So if it's outside of a caliper range or outside of a minimum or maximum width range, it will not allow you to select that potential press. Down below here, you see the GL account that we've assigned it to, and we can set up speed tables. So depending on the number of press sheets that go into that particular job, you can set up tables. So from 0 to 100 press sheets, or you can run at X amount per hour. You can even break it down based on sizes. So we know that 8.5 by 11 is going to run a little bit faster than 11 by 17. Or if you're running envelopes and you need to, knock your impressions per hour down based on envelopes, you can set these extensive speed tables based on press sheet run as well as sizes. You can calculate waste tables for paper stock based on press sheet quantity, and again, you can create tables. So from 0 to 100 press sheets, we're going to do 250 flat sheets and 100% markup, or 100% percentage as far as waste. So you can calculate those extensive waste tables. You can set a minimum price for the press, as well as we scroll down here, tables for prices per hour. So again, based on press sheet quantity, excuse me, you can have different tables. So as your quantity goes up, maybe your price per hour is going to go down, so you can be a little bit more cost effective, or be a little bit more effective in that job. Again, you can calculate plate wear, so how many plates we need to that we can get out of a plate, how much time in a plate change, your plate costs or prices, again your ink coverage speeds, so we can set our ink coverage, medium, average, heavy coverage, and change the speed of the press based on ink coverage. I can also set aqueous coating per 1,000 on here as well if I have an inline aqueous coater. So a lot of extensive settings. We can import customers in, we can import AR and set up GL accounts. You even manage your online ordering through the MIS, so that shows that it's fully two-way integrated. So if paper prices go up and you want to push that out to the web, you're not managing two systems. It's all done throughout the MIS. That actually will conclude the MIS demonstration for today. Again, if you have any further questions or you want to investigate DocketManager a little bit further, please feel free to give us a call posted down in the notes below, or visit our website at www.docketmanager.ca. Thank you and have a great day.